Sorry.
Come on, Jor, get in here. I like how he goes straight gorilla.
We are live, and welcome to the spoiler chat, and really
Which
just
is really just for us.
Yeah,
Sorry.
this is just, it's literally just for us.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are joining us, or welcome. We are here discussing The Legend of Blackjack, and we will get into a spoilery discussion. And firstly, we'll go around the screen and introduce ourselves. So, Andrew, do you want to take it away first?
Who, me? I am Andrew from Andrew's Wizardly Reads. I am what happens when you take a monkey and splice sugar straight into its DNA, and then teach it how to read. So, I make book reviews about fantasy and sci-fi, and I just kind of like to have a good old time.
I'm Andy. I'm what happens when you get Andrew's Wizardly Reads and inject it with cocaine. Really glad to be here tonight. Thank you so much.
My name is Kayla. I'm over at Kay's Hidden Shelf. I read books, fantasy, sci-fi, some random historical fiction, other books, and I talk about it. I'm not spliced with anything that makes me that energetic. I'm pretty chill in comparison.
I'm Jordan. I don't have a YouTube channel, so I just hide and type random thoughts on the internet at Escapist Books. Love to read and hide most of the time.
And I'm Kirsten. I'm the Spine of Motherhood on Bookstagram and Book Talk. Mostly Book Talk. That's my favorite. And I read horror and fantasy and a bunch of other random stuff. So, yay!
Awesome. I am Lana from Lore and Lullabies. I currently have a whingy child.
Oh.
But I
I love how you
am...
said whinging.
I am the creator of India Chords, this thing, and also I am a hobby booktuber on this here channel. So yeah.
Hi, small human.
Say hello. No? Okay. This is going to be great, guys.
Before we start, I just want to say thank you to you guys for ever picking up the book at all, much less reading it and deciding to talk about it with other people, because that's amazing to me. I don't honestly feel like almost any book has a Ice Cube's chance in hell. So you guys are definitely breathing life into it. So I just want to say thank you so much. And I really want to talk about spoiler stuff because I can't talk about spoiler stuff with anybody else. So I really want to do it. So thank you for that.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Awesome. Do we want to start off at like the prologue and how you like just destroyed my soul? At first I was like, oh, I love this. This is so sweet. And then I was like, this doesn't happen enough in fantasy where there's like a really nice father-son like relationship, and then you just went and shat all over it.
I was like, wait, is this a horror story or is this fantasy?
That was a bait and switch. That's what that was.
It really was.
I mean, it wasn't that horrific. It was just kind of
bad.
I think the horrific part's
Bad.
after.
Yeah.
Well, and let's be honest, there are no spoilers in the prologue. I don't know. I'm just glad anybody because you've got like 10 pages, right? To kind of introduce this kid and try to make you feel something. And so it's like, okay, what is the best possible thing you can do to develop that relationship? Because you're going to sever it. And if you sever it and it doesn't matter, who cares? Right. So investing that into the two of them right off the bat, I don't think anything works after that without it.
Were they going to get pizza? I don't remember, because now all of a sudden I'm just like,
Sandwiches from Stearns.
Yeah.
No, fried pork tenderloin sandwiches.
That's right.
Yum.
Which
Sounds
is
so good.
Which is a shout out to Indiana.
Yeah.
When I ran creative for the Fox station and the CBS station here in Indianapolis, I honestly appealed to the governor's office to have the fried pork tenderloin sandwich made into the official food of Indiana, and we pushed it on the air. Didn't quite fly.
Isn't it like the official sandwich though?
It's the official sandwich. We wanted to make it the official food. Really, we just wanted to make a big promo out of it, but it was fun.
Yeah. If you don't know what it is, it's like a fried pork, like smashed patty that is then breaded and fried, and it's basically as big as your head, but the bun is only this big.
Right.
Dang.
Oh my gosh.
This is the bun right there, and then that's the meat coming out of the bun. That's exactly what it looks like.
You can go to pretty much any restaurant and they're going to have a pork tenderloin here in Indiana.
Yeah.
Okay, I would go to Indiana solely for that.
Yeah, I would try it for sure.
I might have to visit Indiana now.
Yeah.
Well, I'm here, so yes, you have a reason.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. It's true.
We can both Andrews can put you up for a night,
Okay.
and then we'll kick you out.
Fair.
I can put you up on a couch.
I'll put you up for 2 nights.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go. Because I've got kids. They occupy both of the spare rooms.
Understandable.
And
So-
every other space.
Yes.
Yes, except my office. Well, actually, no. There's a changing station right there. Anyway.
But
So I have a question for you, Andy.
Yeah.
So a lot of the themes in this book are relation to the father and son relationships between not just Jack, but if you think of Memphis as well, he had a huge parental relationship thing going on there.
Yeah.
Why particularly the father-son relationship? Did you want to explore that in a variety of different ways in this?
Because I don't know the mother-daughter relationship.
Well, fair.
He doesn't have the perspective.
I don't know what that looks like. Like there are a whole. If you're going to do a coming of age story, the one that bell rings loudest, longest, and deepest, to me, is kind of that daddy issue stuff that so many of us carry around and is the foundation of every Marvel movie. And so to me, that was the thing. Like, if you're going to do a coming of age story, that's the thing to explore. And I like the idea of multiple people who fill the dad role. Because if it's just one guy, I think we talked about this earlier, like if it's just one dad, eventually it just becomes the Great Santini, where the dad is the villain and the evil thing that must be conquered, and that's the end of the story. And I don't want to tell that story. So, I wanted to tell these like different successive relationships where you've got, Alex Swift in the beginning, and then you've got Memphis, and then you've got Valerian, and then you've got Rooker, and then that all kind of fill these weird functions of surrogate dad until you get
And then a wicked twist at the end. You mad man.
Well, we can talk about that one right off the bat if you want to get that one out.
Lord.
I mean,
I'm
it is
so
a
mad.
real discussion.
Go for it.
Okay, let me ask a question. Who saw the end coming?
I did not.
I did not.
I did.
I did not.
I suspected it, but I wasn't entirely, I didn't want to commit to my suspicion until I actually saw it happen.
Got it. Okay. What's fun for me is that I don't care. Like, if you figured it out early, my hope is if you did or you didn't, it doesn't matter. But because when you get there, it still matters. Right. And when, you see through that ice for a second and it's like jaw drop. If you knew it was like, I had somebody think that he was going to be the necrosorcer. Okay.
Well,
dad's not really dead, but he's the evil magician. Right. That was the way that they went with it.
I could tell he wasn't dead. I just didn't think that that's who he was.
Right.
So like I'm like, he's gonna show up at some point.
Be there.
So I have a random question.
Yeah.
Kind of leading on to that is, so like the doctor's perspective, was his dad like able to observe him like growing up kind of in this type of thing, or how did those people find out about the doctor and like the magic?
Oh, if you get into the details of it, it's a little bit Will of the Wick. And the idea that all of these things are tied together. So when Memphis goes looking for a doctor, the article that comes in front of him is the article of Jack receiving the award. And I like the thing that all of those tie together. And, you know, there's a little bit of the idea that, you know, what is Valerian putting together? What is he trying to do? In Valerian's mind, allowing the son to save the father has a kind of sense of nobility to it. So getting that right person at the right time makes sense. But, you know, it's all time travel, so it's all timey-wimey, squibbly-wibbly.
Yeah.
But,
Wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey. You want to be technical.
We have some comments here. Hello to everyone.
It's funny because one of my patrons read the book and he really enjoyed it, but he's a nurse, and he was just like, and he got in like, it's funny because my wife does this too. Whenever something medical is on the TV, he can't help but destroy it.
yeah, that's wrong. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, and so like I got comments of like, hey, just the needles that were used were wrong. Like this needle that he's actually using is like for a subcutaneous fat and stuff. And I'm just like, I didn't even know. Like it's one of those things where it's like, oh, that entire scene was awesome when you're using like billows that you've like somehow sanitized to just pull out a ruptured appendage.
I just wanted to make a vacuum. Okay, cool. Let's make a vacuum. And the funny thing is, like it started with my dad. I went in and watched an appendectomy with my dad, and then I watched it with, I think, him twice, and then another doctor once or twice. I can't remember. And then I got all the notes and wrote down all the notes. And then every time I've given it to a doctor, they've given me different notes on no, it should be like this, and no, it should be like this. And the funny thing is, the doctors all think that Jack should have diagnosed it way earlier. He's like, no, he just should have known.
That part was kind of hard for me because I've had my appendix taken out. So I was like, oh gosh,
It's so
stressful.
brutal though, and the artwork for it.
Yeah.
It's just
The artwork.
Man, I love that's probably still my most poignant scene in the whole book.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And what Mohan did was he made the gloves too big. That was the thing that I loved, is that they're too big on his hands, which is the whole idea. It's just like, he's not ready. You're not big enough to do this.
I feel like he captured it in the eyes too, like those huge eyes. Like, what am I doing?
Yeah, and that was the thing is we kept going like that. The original art for that went back and forth like I think 6 rounds, and every time it was go bigger with the eyes, go bigger with the eyes, go bigger with the eyes. Okay, don't go anime, take it back.
Don't go out.
It's one of my favorite scenes. Is just because you get to sit in Jack's head as he is literally freaking out, and they're like, "Well, if he can't do it, he's gonna die," and he's just like, "Well, I mean, if he's gonna die anyway, I might as well give it a shot."
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like you can't. It's like that piece of paper I was talking about on the inspiration for creatives thing. You can't make it any worse.
Well, I mean, he technically made it worse, but then makes it better.
What all surgeons do. You got to cut it open in order to get it out.
That's why they just say it was successful or a failure.
Mm-hmm. So coming out of let me ask you, the place, no, I'm going to skip that. The place that I lose people is in between chapter 6, where the island gets raided, and chapter 7, where he's out on the open ocean and we introduce Rooker and the Venture Brigand. the people that like bail off of the book bail off there because they think, oh, this guy's not really telling me a story. He's just, here's another thing. He's not building on anything. And I need to know, like, did that throw you off? Was it like, where the hell is he going with this? Or was it like, I got pirates, I'm good.
For me, I know exactly what you're talking about because I did feel a momentary kind of just, because we're getting set up where he's starting to train, he's starting to learn combat, he's the spindly guy. And then it feels kind of like you're just like, okay, and attack. So let's toss that and go play with the pirates.
Right.
And it takes a little bit to transition into that, but like, I mean, it's such a great scene anyway.
Yeah.
That when you open up with it, you're just kind of like, yeah, okay. So like,
what's a great
pull him out of
scene?
the water, the guy gets beheaded. You're just like, all right, yeah.
The Venture Brigand?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And the ship design was really cool too.
He was so good. I mean, that belly turret, man, we were just talking about like a B-52 and what that would look like. And then he incorporated it into the boat. And it was like, yeah, this is way bigger than I ever thought it was going to be. But yeah. I was like, that thing is awesome.
I also got kind of like Stardust vibes.
Mm-hmm.
That start like the movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
well, also a book.
It is, but like that's kind of what I related it to, was like jumping from one thing to the next. And so for me, it was like, oh, it's this kind of story. Like we're going to see a whole bunch of the world. And it was a way to explore the world from the eyes in different ways that way, rather than just the traditional, yeah, there's the picture, that one.
Yeah,
well, in my review, I mentioned that it's very much like the Page Master, the movie, which I don't know if anybody remembers the Page Master.
No one remembers that movie, no.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're old enough.
We're all old.
Adventure to adventure.
Wait, Kirsten, did you say you remember that movie?
Is it the one from the 90s?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'm 32. I might not look that old, but
I am also 32. So.
Well, I'm older than that, but so I remember.
A baby.
I liked the pirate scene though because I just finished Our Flag Means Death. So when I saw the pirates, I was like, oh yes, pirates. And it did help with, I think, the world building of seeing how different places in the world work. And so I liked it. It was like kind of a change of tempo, but I don't think it was negative personally. I liked it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It made it different than others. Like instead of just kid training becomes like this amazing person from the training and then goes out and saves the world. Like I like that change of pace. He didn't really learn anything. All of a sudden he's just thrown into the literal fire.
Yeah, here's your 2 lessons for Abraham. Bye.
So book 2.
Whoa.
Exactly that one.
What? Why?
Hey,
Whatever. Okay, how about this?
heard
If you don't want to do book 2,
Prequel.
go to a different series.
Or
there we
prequel.
go. As long as it was
Give us something, sir.
something that I don't have to make any art for. How about that?
That works. Your writing's the art.
There you go.
Exactly.
So you come out of the scene with, introduce the Venture Brigand, and then you go into Remy's Call. Campion. Is that like a holy shit? Or was that like, I saw that one coming?
I didn't see it coming.
Mm-mm.
No, didn't see it coming.
I didn't either.
Okay. Good.
That one hit me.
Because as soon as I introduce him, it's like, hey, he's got no hand. It's like, duh. I feel like I just pulled the lead. It's like, here, guess what I'm planning for later.
Yeah, no, that
he's so good looking.
It didn't click in for me, and the chaos that happened right before jumping to the next scene with the pirates, that I was too absorbed in the chaos to notice that little tidbit.
Right.
Yeah. went right
Mhm.
over my head.
Yeah.
Okay.
The fact that he was one of the main, like, I want to say the main villain, but like the lieutenant villain, I guess is what you would say.
I got 3 of them.
I never saw that coming until it was just like, by the way, this guy's evil, and I was just like, no, he's the guy at the beginning who was really nice to him and wanted help with his hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I liked him right at the beginning. I was like, he's gonna find a way to help him, and like he's gonna become this really cool guy. And then all of a sudden, he's stabbing people in the back.
Yeah.
Yep. The
Yeah,
betrayal.
that guy needs some anger management classes.
Right.
Did much. Okay, so that came as a surprise. Okay, so that was semi-effective there. Like when you do that reveal at the end of whatever it is, chapter 8. Okay, so that works. And then we're off on our forest adventure. And I'm just going to go ahead and do it now. Like I wish there were more female characters. I wish there was more Lee. I didn't have 180,000 pages or 180,000 words. So, she got to be, there's plenty more there. And I wish I tried to do as much with her as in Remy's Call as I could, because I couldn't do anything with her again until chapter 13. So she kind of gets these highlight moments along the storyline. So anyway.
I mean, it didn't bother me that there weren't more female characters.
Yeah.
I liked it for what it was.
Yeah.
So,
I just would want more later.
right. So what you're saying is you're going to
Something
read
else.
more?
Kayla got the commitment.
So what you're saying is in book 2, we're actually going to follow.
Like,
So Magical Bird, okay, that's just relationship building. There aren't a bunch of surprises there. Then we introduced the trio, not a bunch of surprises there. I don't know. I guess the next big one is probably the parachute. And did you buy into it?
Sorry.
I don't remember the parachute.
That's
No.
how he escapes the
How he kills.
jumping in front of the dragon. And
Oh, yeah, okay.
I was like, how could
Sorry,
you not?
I've probably read 80 books since Blackjack.
That's probably 180 by.
yeah, the India chords
Yeah.
ruin your brain, man. You're just tapioca.
My brain is not firing on all cylinders.
So
I mean, I was just lost in the scene on what was going to happen next. Whether or not it was believable to me didn't really matter at that point. I was just like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Is it going to work?
Yeah, that's kind of the magic of Blackjack, is even if it's not believable, you're so wrapped up in the scene and in the narrative and what's going down that, like, it doesn't even, because it's all fast paced. It's all happening real quick. You don't have time to sit there and be like, no, wait a minute. If he was this high off the ground and he's
Actually,
his airspeed velocity, and you don't have time for any of that. You're like, oh my God, like, is he going to hit the ground? What's going to happen? It works. And I love the fact that moment kind of cements him as, it kind of reinvigorates this legend of Black Jack.
yeah,
Who, is this his, mythological figure within Keymark.
I felt like that was the moment Jack starts believing more in himself. Like I don't have to follow what the legend did, but I can create my own legends.
Right.
And so I liked seeing that progression from him. Like, it wasn't like he learned from the others. He took his own knowledge and made his thing instead of being trained by the master.
And become the thing that's exactly what you're supposed to be. He's got to be his version of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I liked that. And I think that was kind of correct me if I'm wrong, but that was kind of how I took like all of that story of Jack, is he's taking this prophecy type thing, this legend, but he's making it his own way. And I could see I know you're a big fan of the Rothfuss and kind of that type of thing, like taking that narrative, like over the top stories, and then making it realistic and bringing it down to this is what actually happened, but everybody who sees it sees this dramatic and amazing event.
Right.
Like that whole village, all they know is that the dragon's dead and he's falling out of the sky, which they probably never see.
It's amazing.
But then he gives him the dragon corpse, and nobody understands this like kind of generosity. He's like, "What am I gonna do with it?" And then
Drag it with
very
me.
realistically, they're like, "Are you sure you're gonna give this to us?" He's like, "What?" I'm like, 5 foot nothing. What?
Yeah.
You want me to lug it around with me? Like,
This could drag a leg, I guess, but that's about as far as you're gonna go.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and I also, one of the things I love about Jack is even though he kind of becomes Black Jack, he's still not quite like, it's his story, but he's not the all-powerful hero. Like, he gets
Yes.
some power, but it's more of a team effort and more of like, we've got, I forget his name, and you even said his name, the Portal Knight.
Valerian?
Yeah, Valerian.
Okay.
Valerian, he's more of like the big hero. He's got the muscles, he's got the skills, and then they all kind of come in and reinforce him and support. And so instead of Jack being this overpowered OP Gary Stu, it's more of a team effort.
It could be any kid off the street.
Yeah. And it's because I love Bilbo. Right? Bilbo's not this big fighter. He's not Aragorn, right? He's not Thorin. He's a
Hobbit.
yeah, he's us. He's got no special skills. He's good at kind of sneaking around and hiding and not getting caught. That's really all he's good at. And to me, that is so much more compelling in a hero than Gary Stu or the knight who has everything or whatever it is. Yeah. Who can relate to that? I understand why those exist, because you want to project yourself into those people and vicariously have those powers and those abilities and feel confident. Because I think that has a real place. I think it's very important to be able to project yourself into somebody like that when you don't have power and be able to feel like you do for a couple of hours. But I didn't want that for my guy because I needed him to be you all the time. Right. I needed him to stay that way. So like Jordan, what you were saying is, you've got the legend and then you've got what Jack does. And to me, the whole point of that is when you're a kid, you have the expectation of who you're supposed to be. Right. And that is never who you become. Right. It's you get close to that. You can shoot for it and then regret things later because you became that. But usually your expectations are here and what you become is something here. It's in that spectrum, but you want to become something different. And to me, that was the whole point of here's the legend of who you're supposed to be. You do that in whatever way you're going to do that. And so anyway, that's why all that's there.
That was actually my favorite part of it, because usually when there's a prophecy and a chosen one, they kind of fumble their way through, but it's just, I feel like usually it's just blown up so much more. Whereas this was like logical things that happened that a boy would do or go through, like with his amazing brain. And it was just, that part to me was just so much realistic. Right? And from those actions, like for his legend to become his legend is exactly as it was prophesized. That to me, I was just like, that was freaking well done. Like that was so well done.
I got a slow clap.
You did.
Well, and one of the things that I love about Jack is because the way his brain works is you see him get frustrated because they're like, "Oh, you can't read." He's just like, you. He's just like, I remember everything I ever see. What do you mean I can't read? And like he gets really defensive and really upset about it. And it's like you're attacking the core of who he is by basically you're like, oh, you must be an imbecile. No.
Where'd you come from, boy chick?
Kind of get jealous of his friend. who and like you think, oh, of course he's gonna get the girl, but in the end, he really all he gets is like a peck on the cheek.
Yeah,
and just a attaboy.
She's not ready for him. He's not ready for her. Not yet.
Well, and most of your general fantasy, by the time they're 14, they're engaged to be married, and it's a love that was fated to be, and they'll be together forever. And
this is what happens when you infuse Andrew with cocaine.
Apparently.
And finding out who her dad was, that was like a good kind of thing for me. I was like,
"Whoa!" He got intimidated. He was like, "Who's your dad?"
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of backs off.
What were you gonna say, Kirsten?
Finding out who her dad was, that was like when that part came out, I was like, "Oh, he's never gonna get with her now." That's not
okay. Oh, so that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the end of that for now.
My dad is the big man in town.
Who's the old man?
That part was hilarious too. Oh my gosh.
You know how scary it is to try and write funny, not having any idea if anybody's gonna like get the fact that it's a joke, much less a good one. Right? It's just terrifying. Seriously, out of all the stuff that scared the hell out of me, writing comedy for readers, because you have to do this trust fall into you guys saying, oh, they're going to get it. Because if you don't get it, I land on the floor.
What is this weird stuff?
That's a
and
dumb
because
thing
it's
to
like
say.
written and printed, you can't change it either.
Yeah.
No.
I think it came across well. I laughed several times throughout the book, so
that's the whole.
I did as well. Like the action was intense, but the comedy was spot on as well.
To me, I got
the privilege of listening to him narrate it, so
a little bit easier to translate the jokes when you listen to it.
Yeah,
I kept hearing little adverts for car dealerships in the background, but it was fine otherwise.
Right. I had to make a deal with Ray Skillman. We were going through jokes and trust fall, and nope, I lost the thread. There was something I was going to ask, but I can't remember what it was.
It's my fault.
It's okay.
It's always your fault, Andrew.
We'll blame you.
Probably is, honestly. How did everybody feel about him finding Blackjack? Like actually finding Blackjack, going down into this pit of like pure this darkness and having to actually confront his fears. And then getting an animal companion to boot.
Right?
I mean, I like that, but I actually really enjoyed Shadow. Because Jack just felt like the kind of character that always had to have some form of control, and things were getting out of control. Things were getting really difficult, and having a physical representation of your fear to remind you how bad things can get if it loses control was so cool.
Agree.
I like that.
Yeah.
I also like the weapon, the staff.
It's pretty cool. It's a great weapon, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and
it's got pockets.
Yeah.
There's your office right there. It's got little pockets. Yeah, Nepentha's around for a whole bunch of different reasons, but mainly because of kung fu movies where they would use those bamboo staves. And I just thought, what if that thing could come apart and like be different pieces, and you can grab onto the end and pull out a knife and put it back in and then pop one. So it was just like, oh, that'd be so cool. So it's, bamboo is the whole reason that it exists.
The only thing I pictured is like, I love those like videos of like when women are trying on clothes, and like the selling point is they like shove their hands down to their elbows and they're like, it's got pockets.
Yeah.
That's all that came into my head.
That's it. That's an instant buy for me.
Yeah. It has pockets. Oh yeah.
I won't buy any
The
pants
deeper
without
the pockets, the better. Like if they can shove their whole arm, the more excited they get.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever seen pockets on women's pants though? They're like this big.
They're
Oh
awful.
no, they're minuscule.
They're so bad. It's like
it's an absolute crime against society.
uh-huh.
It really is.
And the girls are the ones that are carrying all the shit.
All the stuff, yeah.
Everybody's looking to them. Hey, where are my keys? Where's my wallet? I got this. I got that. They should have all of the pockets.
I
Agreed.
agree.
Without them.
So that's what I think about when I think of Nepentha.
Actually, I had a nerd out moment when I looked back at the book after finishing it and realized that your publication company is named after Nepentha. I was like, wait, what? Yeah, look at it. Look at it. It's the
I
naval
noticed
weapon.
that.
Where is this information?
It's on the front.
Just
First
like all
page.
grabbing.
It's on the first page.
Everybody's
I gotta look.
Yes.
I didn't look that cup.
By the way, I need to say that Gloria pointed out this week that we don't actually have a copy of the Legend of Blackjack because I've given them all away.
Aw.
She's very mad at me. So all I have is my art copy.
Well, that is very kind of you.
Not according to Gloria.
Whoops.
Sorry.
Well, we appreciate it.
No problem. I want to get back to the cave real quick.
Yeah.
Because to me 14 is Rite of Passage is the whole book, right? There's a whole point is because you're given the opportunity to say no to all of this and go back to what you know. It's not necessarily good, but it's what you know, and nobody's trying to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And the moment that Jack sets fire to the Jaunt Gate, you get that definitive moment of decision where because the whole first half of the book, he's got no agency, right? He is being grabbed and taken for the entire first half. And Acadian is when Lee gets taken, that's the first time he says, I have to do something. And so that's where the agency starts. And then you get, through the middle chapters, and I'm sorry, I really like the Knights being taken over by the leeches. I think it's creepy as hell, and I love it. But then you get to the actual coming of age portion of it, and making that decision, followed by getting the opportunity to face your fear. Right? It's not the other way around. You have to make the decision before you have the presence of will and presence of mind to say, I'm going to face my fear down. So to me, those are the two big sections of the whole book, is making a decision for who you are and what you stand for, and then standing up to the fear that's going to stop you from becoming that person.
Well, and there's a little bit more to it, because not only, he faces the fear and he gets the reward, he gets Shadow, Nepentha, and all that. But at moments, if he falters, the fear will rear its head and latch back onto him. And he's got to constantly face it. It's not because in a lot of fantasies, you face the fear, you've overcome the fear. Okay, moving on, and it never comes back.
Right.
Yeah.
And here, it's very much, we get the feeling that he is a young boy. He does have these fears. He does have these insecurities, and he does have to face them more than once, including when you've got a horde of people coming at you.
Good luck.
Or good luck.
You got this, Jon Snow. Yeah, I completely agree with you, because it's not a one and done. That's not how we roll as humans.
Yeah.
It stays with us. And, the idea that Shadow keeps getting bigger and really wants to keep coming after him. He just has mastery over it for a while. And then, that's the whole thing at the Battle of the Paladine Arch is stick 'em. It's like, no, you're not coming after me. You're going for them. And being able to turn that around on somebody else, I think is delightful.
Yeah.
I like that.
It's
What was
all
the
like re-hitting. I'm like remembering like the book as we're talking about it. And I'm like, oh yeah, that was really good. Oh yeah, that was so good.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of the same thing.
Yeah. What was the first scene that like you cemented like, yep, this is what I want to have happen? Like I imagine like you had a whole thing, but there had to be one scene where you got most excited, like this isn't going to change. This is what I want.
The first thing that ever got written was Rose, Haig, and Memphis. And actually, Kayla and I had a conversation about this yesterday, but we'll skip that. That was the first thing that ever got written because I knew that's what I wanted my guy to get out of. And that changed a lot over. I mean, that chapter has changed more than anything else in the entire book. The one that I think I got right first was probably Island of Dreams, because it felt like I'm introducing these characters, we're kind of starting this environment, and I make this thing that all of us would kind of want to do, like maybe not in real life, but kind of in, this is what fantasy is for. And you've got friends and you've got people pounding on the table and cheering your name, right? And oh yeah, how good that would feel. And to get all of that in a way that I thought was right so that I could ruin it the next chapter, that made me happy.
Evil.
And then the next one I think was probably Remy's Call, because that was so hard, because I'm done introducing all of my dumb people. Now I've got to start bringing them back in, right? And figuring out how to get Lee in correctly, I needed him to save some lives. And so Lee obviously was always going to be the person that said, no, you're doing this because you can and nobody else can, because he doesn't want to. She's the one who drives him. And so getting that to work was a puzzle box, and I was really happy about that. And then I think, Rite of Passage was I mean, that maybe took 3 days and I never touched it again.
Okay.
Sorry, that's a long answer.
No, that's perfect.
Booker's the pirate, correct?
Rooker, yeah.
Rooker. Okay, I changed the R to a B. I probably got bourbon on the mind. Anyway, Rooker. So I like the way that his character evolved, because he kind of starts out as like a substitute stand-in father figure. Not a good one.
Like older brother.
Yeah,
like
and then
fun uncle. He's got fun uncle vibes.
Yeah, he's got fun uncle. Like, he's like, oh yeah, I'll watch you for the weekend. What do you mean your dad's not coming back? It's just like, no, I got parties to go to, and like I gotta go skydiving, man. And you can't come with me. And I liked how it kind of morphed into like when he realized that he had formed a relationship with Jack. There's this whole scene when he's up in the tower and he's got everything he's ever wanted. You can't take this from me. And he's just like, I don't want it. He's like, all I ever wanted was, friendship and to be understood. And that's inconceivable to Rooker. And Rooker throws this whole hissy fit at the top of the tower. It's just like, yeah. And then like he comes to regret it, and he gets this kind of little redemption arc. And I love their whole relationship, because, Jack kind of surpasses him in maturity. Granted, you can argue that Jack was always more mature, because, Rooker is childish. But it was just, I loved their dynamic.
Me too.
Same.
Yeah. I loved his character in general. Another kind of thing I was going to say, I was thinking about is Fuji, because I'm reading the Dark Tower series by Stephen King, and I love a character in that named Oi, and he's like a little creature.
Yeah.
And so I really loved Fuji a lot too because it's just I think I like kind of like people look down at them like, oh, it's just a dumb animal or dumb whatever, but like
a dog.
Yeah, like I always love them because I'm like, oh, they're so cute and like they're helpful and whatever, you know. So I didn't know if anything inspired you to add Fuji and the, you know, that whole dynamic, or is it kind of spur of the moment?
I'll tell you, I second guessed myself on Fuji more than any other single thing in the book.
Oh, I love him.
Yeah.
Is Fuji you? Did you put yourself in the book?
And, yeah, because I wanted Jack has to have a sounding board who isn't judging him and doesn't want anything from him other than that. So I always, especially once we get to the second half, I needed somebody for him to bounce thoughts off of that was safe. And not a lot of people fill that role. So I literally came up with the idea from a refrigerator magnet that we have that is now, these little tree frog fingers that you get on a vacation somewhere. And I was like, oh, that'd be cool if it had little hands and it could do. But the more I started, and then you had to introduce it earlier and earlier to kind of establish it on the ship and then reintroduce it at Remy's Cole and then really bring it into the fort later on.
Yeah.
So you had to, do a lot of sewing to get it in there. And I was absolutely convinced that here's where I lose my adults, right? I'm going to do this dumb animal thing that he talks to, and every adult is going to be like, and the kids are going to be like, gee, that's neat. But I thought absolutely I was going to lose the adults there.
Not me. I loved it, and I love that they used ASL. Like
everybody loves an animal companion.
Yeah,
it's true. And it was awesome that it was a different animal companion than what you typically see as an animal companion.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what made it unique.
Yeah, so
There's
not
always like
only
a
was it
horse or a wolf or a dog.
What were you saying, Lana?
Or a dragon.
Yeah. I was going to say, not only was it a different kind of animal, but the way that they communicated. Usually there's either like mind speak, and they can just somehow understand each other, even though they see the world completely different, but they can usually understand each other. They're either mind speak or the animal can talk. But I loved in this one that the ASL was used.
Me too.
It was just so unique and so cool. And I just loved that rep in there. That was just awesome.
Yeah, and that's I don't know, I've probably told every single one of you, like, I feel like this book is here to give hope to the lost and lonely, right? Whether you feel that way all the time or you feel that way like 3 minutes a week, all of us feel that way sometime. And I feel like that's where this story is supposed to come in. And so it was so funny because I started getting these little notes from people who have deaf parents or deaf kids that were talking about how cool it was to have ASL in the book. I was like, oh my gosh. Okay.
Very cool. Yeah. It was a good touch, I think.
And I like that. Well, Jack had to figure it out. He had to figure out a way that they could communicate, and it wasn't the automatic. It wasn't like, oh, they're intelligent. I can do this. It was like trial and error. He had to sit, play with it, try and figure out if they were able to communicate at all. Just the puzzling of it added to it.
It did.
Whenever somebody adds ASL to something, I get really excited. Well, my mother worked for the Indiana School for the Deaf for 30 years.
Right.
My grandfather advocated for deaf rights here in the U.S. back in the 80s.
My mom
Something
did in
like
New
that.
Zealand as well.
It always gets me where I live, because that's kind of very much my family. Like, I grew up signing. I'm horrible at it now, but it's kind of one of those things where you don't do
use it or lose it.
Yeah.
Yeah, my grandparents are deaf, but I only see them once every year and a half. and so I don't really have a chance to use my sign language anymore. But any inclusion of something like that is always very heartwarming, and I've been seeing it more and more lately. Like I know T.A. Bruno's Song of Cameria has that as well.
Yeah.
And he actually like acknowledges it in front of the book and stuff like that. And
That's awesome.
It's always a nice add when you can communicate like some, because it's either like telepathy or it's, you all of a sudden have the what's that thing from Hitchhiker's Guide, that like bug you put in the ear,
The worm you put in your ear.
Yeah. That translates.
Something
A
weird
translator
like that, but you have this ready built language that is very, very easy to use. Like kids, they've done studies that like if you do ASL to your kids or any sort of a sign language, they can actually develop and make associations at a younger age,
Way earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you do like research any ASL?
Oh yeah, I did research on it, and it's all thanks to Mike and Jordan at camp, right? The two deaf kids at camp, and they were funny, so you wanted to learn how to talk to them, and so like they were great because they made everybody want to be their friend, so everybody learned ASL, and then you forget it to the next year, and then you go back to camp, and they're both there. It's like, oh yeah, you can do all that stuff. So that's where that came from, and yeah, I think that's it. Is Rooker similar to? Oh, Marilyn, like Marilyn. Yeah, that's where Rooker's last name comes from. I just figured nobody would remember Errol Flynn.
Is his last name Flynn? I don't remember.
Rooker Flynn.
Yeah, Rooker Flynn.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
I also love the oh, sorry, go.
No.
No.
Name a 14-year-old on the planet that can name who Errol Flynn is. So.
I'm gonna go teach someone now.
Yeah, I'm gonna run to the high school down the street. I'm sure no problems will occur for me.
I need to kidnap a child.
Come here, strange child.
You're a white man.
I have wisdom to impart to you. What do you mean I have to leave the premises?
Yeah, Christie's movies live on forever.
Sorry, Lana, you had something. We kind of jumped on you.
It's kind of like a slight change of subject, but I really liked the relationship between Chance and is it Li Bao?
Li Bao.
Li Bao.
Yeah, they had like a kind of like Gimli and Legolas relationship, and I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
Was that like intentional? Were they always going to be like that, or?
Lana, I felt like I was cheating. I mean, that's exactly because I need the three of them because one, I wanted to show during the ascent to Acadian that everybody has something to bring to the show. To overcome the obstacle, you need, Chance's ability to see in the dark and Django's ability to get the gate up and Rooker's ability to pick the locks. Like that was all really intentional. And introducing two, you got Rooker and Jack, and then you could introduce two, but that's bad. So you overwhelm them and now you're outnumbered. Okay, cool. Django was always there. And then I needed two. And if they got along, that was really boring. So I needed those two because I got Django who just, I love you, Jack. And then, so these two needed to be at odds. And so, I'll skip all the stuff about later, but yeah, that was very intentional.
It worked.
I'll always feel guilty about it. But.
Did anybody else get like choked up at the death of the Minotaur?
Oh yeah. I was tearing up. Yeah. I was like, no.
That got me in my feels. Like somewhere in this general vicinity, my heart hurt.
Yeah.
So I was annotating this on the ebook while I was reading. So I was highlighting and leaving notes. And I'm pretty sure it's that scene. My note just says, "You monster," in reference to Andy.
It's the best note ever.
I mean, we get the rhino back.
Yeah. But
That made it a little better, but not totally.
Well, but what's nice is that Memphis is gone at that point. Like Memphis is out of the story. He hasn't been in the story for a chapter and a half. So, is he going to live or die? Whatever. But so when Django gets hit, that's hopefully it's compounded by one, you've already kind of lost Memphis, and then two, here's the guy who believed in you no matter what. And he's the guy that goes down.
Well, I mean, it's almost like the ending of the book is like kind of bittersweet. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Hook, when Rufio gets stabbed through, but at the same time, like Peter Pan gets his kids back and he remembers how to fly, and it's a very sweet and sentimental moment, but it's paired with a little bit of pain, and so it makes the end more rewarding that you've kind of gotten this payoff because you had to pay for it. Like it didn't come at no cost, because throughout the entire journey, Jack feels guilty about just lying to Django. That he's like, "You're Black Jack," and he's just like, "Yes?" Question mark.
Don't kill me.
And then you kind of come to love him, and then, like, of course, Jack becomes Black Jack, quite literally.
And Django's the guy who said, "I always knew you were."
Yes. Like, I'll never doubted.
Yeah. That just kills me.
It made it more real, though. Like, it wasn't just like your typical childhood fantasy story where you get this great cast of characters, they get hurt, but then they all float off into the sunset at the end of the book. Yeah. Like, that's why it kind of stood out and like really hurt, because it was like, he's gone. Like,
yeah, it was like life. Like life really is kind of, but obviously not. But I don't like happy endings, so I was glad there was kind of like it was completed, but not like perfectly wrapped up in a bow ending.
Yes. Yep.
He left just enough room for book 2.
Just enough. That was actually the last thing that got written, was that had they known they would see each other again in another land at another time, they would have said more. That was the very last thing that got added. And
I am going to hold you to it.
There's nothing definitive there. Had they known, did they? What did it ever happen? We don't know.
He lives close enough to you, Andrew.
I mean, when on that topic of writing something else, I'd love to see more background story to some of the other side characters that we saw, like Memphis. It sounds like he had a really hard time. I'd love to see some background there. And with Rooker, I'd love to see some background on Rooker too, because how did he get to be this just chaotic person?
Yeah. Or like all the knights, like how, I mean, I know we know how they came to be, but like maybe how their story of getting to be knights.
I think that's there's the Noble Seven, isn't that it?
So half of those desires get fulfilled in Noble 7, which is on the AR Witham website. If you sign up for the thing, it sends you the novella. That's not very long. It's like 3 chapters, but it's the origin of the Border Knights.
Cool. Okay. And I'm going to read that after this.
I'm currently 40% in.
And just as a warning, it's not a super deep Jack-sized character dive, right? It's 3 chapters. Mainly, I'm trying to give you something fast and a little bit funny. So, there's pieces in there, and we dig into one guy. I just wanted to do a quick character study on one guy, really, and not to spoil it, but it's the idea of that need for armor, where you feel like you need to be protected and have your guard up all the time. That was the emotion that I wanted to explore, because I know so many people that are like that, where it's they constantly feel like they're going to be under attack, and being able to let some of that go I think is a hard thing to get through, especially when you've been through whatever trauma you've been through to make you like this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes a comfort sometimes. The armor is a pain and a comfort.
Well, but it's so much when you've been hurt so much that it's much easier to go, no, back off, stay away.
Mm-hmm.
That becomes the comfortable thing. That becomes okay. I can do this because I'm not going to get hurt. And the problem is you don't find anyone to love.
Yeah.
And there's so many people to love and have these great conversations with that if you're defensive all the time, it's tough.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Well, thank you for telling me about that because I don't know how I missed it, but I'm definitely going to read it.
I think I do a bad job of saying that it exists.
I think people are just
I'm
like,
not entirely
we want
sure I knew
more.
it existed.
It's because you're busy going, I want book 2.
Yes. I
And
farted
Marilyn,
3 chapters, giving me 40.
It's never
Marilyn would
cycle.
like us to talk a bit more about her favorite character.
So Valerian, like Valerian is perfect dad. And that's really what he's the thing that you can't have because he doesn't exist, right? He is noble and strong and true and loving and kind and giving and good all the time. And it's that thing to look up to, that pinnacle, that goal of like what you wish your dad was or your father figure was. And then you got to take him away. And then you got to bring him back in a way that is not, I'm here to make you feel better, right? It was like, now he's here to put a choice in front of you. It's like, are you going to, it's time to go home. You need to go. And then him making a choice not to do that, is why Valerian's there. And so, my thing with Valerian is that it's like Captain America, right? It suffers this, the noble guy is boring, right? It's just dull. So like I try to infuse him with as much like love instead of just I'm good. I tried to make him kind of as loving as possible and get him off the screen as quick as I could, because the longer you keep him on, the more he suffers, I think. So, I think he's on screen just about the right amount. And then, then we get to the end, and obviously, the battle has to be there at the end, right? And it needs to be what it is. And this is the whole thing that we've been leading to. But for Jack to take the lead in that battle isn't right. That's not your job coming of age. Your job is to be someone who has something to lend to the party, right? Who makes your group and your friends and your people stronger, not being the guy. So it was always important to me that Valerian was the guy at the end, because I think it's just, if I'm Jack, it's just as gratifying to be the guy who helps make that happen as it is to be the guy who, stands at the wall.
You know what we haven't talked about yet is the fact that you tortured Jack into making him basically build a cyborg for the big bad guy. And then, in order to beat the big bad guy, he violated the terms of his contract. He did not read the terms and agreements.
When you make a deal with a demon, you serve the entire term.
He's just like, you get back in there. Well, actually, if you look at the contract,
you're alive now.
Just a bit early, and so I'm free to wreck you.
Well, and that too came from, I don't want this scene where Jack fights and wins against the big bad guy. I don't want that scene. I can't make that scene better than somebody else has already done it. So, figuring out a way to, I think one of the one of the great things about evil is that it tends to self-destruct. And I did want to show that, and I didn't want to have, oh, Jack is going to fight the new cursor. So, having that, I think that twist is absolutely necessary. And then having Jack's memory be the thing that defeats Chularath at the end, I think works.
Curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal.
Did anyone else tear up like when all of the people that Jack helped throughout the book like all came at the end and supported them? Like the way that was written, I was like,
so there was one in particular that you probably could have left this out of the book, but you decided to put in with Andy Ibis, a little side story there with him, his wife, and their little one. And I love that he came back afterward to help too. And like I said, you could have left that little side story out, but you decided to put it in. And I love that you did, because it just added some extra feels and gave a bit more grounding to the story. Because when people are being attacked, there's individual stories and people, their own lives and experiences being affected, and you kind of never see them. They're like pawns and these brigands attacks. And I love that you gave them an identity and then you brought them back. I love that.
That was an exciting moment when he came back. Yeah.
Like he could have just stayed. He had everything that he was looking for in his life that him and his partner were wanting, and he came back anyway.
Yeah, and Andy Ibis is in there because that's what Gloria and I went through, right? That's why that story is there.
Oh.
And then if you're gonna, one, you've got that guy, and I don't know how not to tell that story as a piece of this story. But two, the whole point of Black Jack is it's not him. It's kind of what he inspired. It's not him, it's the people around him, right? The quality of the people around you is who you are.
Yeah.
And I deeply, deeply believe that, because there's nothing I can do by myself, but when you have the right people in your life, there is nothing that can stop you. And that's where it comes from. And having Andy be one of the people that comes at the end and says, I don't really have anything to lend, but I'm here. And I got to be honest with you, I'm glad you cry, because that's where I cry every time.
If any character in this book is you, would it be him?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I mean, all of them are me. I'm Memphis. I'm Valerian. I'm Jack. I'm Rooker.
What?
So
you gotta steal and lie sometimes, right?
So it's perfect that you narrated it yourself.
Yeah. Well, and I think all of you have heard me say this, but honestly, I did the audiobook because I was checking a box, because it's a thing that you're supposed to have. And I thought I was going to get raked over the coals because I have listened to 2 audiobooks in my life. So I thought, okay, there's no way I'm going to get this anywhere close to right, but at least it'll be there for somebody who only wants audiobooks. So I cannot believe it worked. So.
Well, honestly, so the funny thing is I remember you pinged me right before I think Blackjack released.
That sounds right.
You pinged me and I said no.
Yeah.
And it was I have too many review copies. I don't have time.
Yeah.
And then like all of a sudden you came back around and you're like, hey, I know you're busy. I've got an audiobook. And I was just like, yeah, I can bang out an audiobook in a day. Sure. Why not? So it's the audiobook that got me to, invest time in the story. And then once I had it, I had to tell everybody else.
I remember getting that message from you, Andrew. And you're like, hey, I just read this. I think you'd really, really like it. And so I was just like, well, if Andrew liked it, then I'm going to like it. I think, Jordan, you sent me a message as well. And you're like, you should read this. And I was just like, oh, well, yeah, okay. It has to happen now.
Yeah, I'm not very quiet about the books I like, so.
I don't think any of us are.
Yeah. But it's really good, like, especially when you get those personal, like, messages from people who have, like, really similar taste in books and, like, whose opinions you respect. Because, like, it went from, like, me not even knowing about it to the top of my TBR.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you two for sharing.
Yeah, thank all of you for sharing, because without you guys, this book's nowhere. I'm telling you, it's so funny because people always think that like, oh, it's if something is good, people are going to find it.
Mm-mm.
They're not. I worked in West Hollywood for
saturated.
14 years as a screenwriter, and I know 7 writers that are way better than me that never got a chance to work. It just never fell right for them.
No, when I was reading the book, I was like, how have I not heard of this book? Because on Book Talk, the majority of people I follow are horror, because that's what I read, and fantasy. And my friend that I recommended your book to, that you might have sent her, the ebook, she recommended a lot of fantasy, and she's never mentioned it. And I'm like, how have I not heard of this? Because it's so good that it seems like people would be talking about it.
Nobody's heard of it.
I'm very, and not to say anything bad about your book, but like, that's why I was like, this is one of my favorite books this year. And a lot of my favorite books this year have been like indie authors or not well-known books, I guess. So I'm really glad I read it because no one had told me about it. And maybe that's because I read horror. People don't necessarily recommend fantasy as much to me, but I'm really glad that you reached out to me.
So, like, another example is this one right here. Yep. Kay recommended this one to me. This is a book I would never pick up.
So glad you read it.
Based on the cover. And this is, like, one of the most polished books I've ever read. I mean, so like, good. Perfect callbacks, great action, great pacing, great characterization. Nobody's talking about it.
Yeah.
We're buddy reading that, aren't we, Jordan?
Yeah, in October.
Yeah.
Move it up.
Come join.
Yep. Put on the radar because of Kay and Andrew over here.
Yeah.
Kay started the train.
She did.
Well, how that started was the author reached out for your request, and I did the same thing you did, Andrew. I was like, it's a cover romance?
I wouldn't read it because of the cover either. So I'm like,
AR's
AR's giving us his book 2 cover over there.
Oh God. and the thing about it, indie writers is, you're doing it all yourself. So how anybody winds up with a mediocre cover is amazing to me. And then, the fact that, like Nomad looks like, no, there's no chance I would ever read this because of the cover. Right. And it's going back to the idea that without you guys, nobody finds this stuff. It doesn't just rise to the top like Reem, right? It dies on the bottom. There's another one.
Yeah.
This one's been out for years and it's just now getting traction.
Although he's got a plan. He definitely has a plan. He wants book 3 to be done, and then he's going to push.
I think that's kind of like Nomads too, because the author's kind of talked about something similar. He's trying to just get it out slowly and then wants to work on the rest of the series. So that you're right. That might be a tactic people use. Suspicious.
Yeah,
Suspicious.
I know in the like in romance circles that they try and pump out a book like every 3 months. So like they pretty much almost write the whole entire series, and then boom, first book, boom, like 3 months later the second, and then like that, and then at the end, then they do a big push.
Well, that's what Daniel Barnett did for Nightmareland Chronicles. Which, Kirsten, if you haven't read that,
I have not.
Read it.
Fantastic
You will
horror.
love it.
Yay!
Fantastic horror.
Yeah.
Thank you for the rec.
Horror,
So.
fantasy, genre mesh. But so good.
I love
But
fantasy
Patrick
with
seems to
horror
think that you
aspects.
killed the narration, by the way. Andy.
Mhm.
Yes.
I want to listen to the audiobook version now.
It's so good. I
it's
actually,
so
when
good.
I got it, I didn't check the narrator. And after I started listening, I was like, oh, this is a really good narrator. I wonder who. Oh.
Has anybody reached out to you since then?
No.
Be like, can you go run out your car dealership again and read my book?
Well, and that's the thing. Like Noble 7, I'm waiting for people to read it and like. Actually, if you could please give me your honest reaction when you read it, because I don't feel like it's ready yet to be in front of anybody who doesn't already have some goodwill. But what I'd like to do is like maybe like January do like the audiobook for Noble 7, just so I can have another piece. But it's still very much at the point where I can make adjustments to what the story is based on feedback. So, if you've got stuff to say, I'll listen.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right.
Almost halfway through, I'll let you know.
Bold Booktuber says, sorry, haven't been able to check the live stream until now. Just want to say how much I love this book, and AR is deserving of a massive audience.
Very, very true.
Oh.
Scott's good people.
Yeah.
Chris says, the sheer amount of talent per people writing with little to no fanfare for their work is both astounding and depressing.
Absolutely depressing.
100%.
It is.
Well, because then I feel like obligated to be like, hey, Legend of Blackjack, you should freaking read this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because there's no other way. Because like even like the Library Journal of America or Library Journals Association or something, they wouldn't even review the book, right? Because I'm nobody, and they're like, well, we got a stack of 200. You're not on it, thanks. And so you reading it and saying, hey, this is good, you should try this, is the only way.
I found that a lot too on Book Talk, as opposed to I started reviewing books on Bookstagram and moved to Book Talk. And I feel like on Book Talk, and not to say anything bad about anybody because I'm on there, but people will see a book mentioned a lot. Like, for example, right now I'm reading Hidden Pictures, which is a thriller, and I only got it because everyone was posting about it. And I feel like a lot of people in Book Talk just read books because they see other people with the book. Like you have FOMO or whatever.
I'm sorry. That's why most people read most books.
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree. But I think that's like why maybe your book, even though it's so amazing, I'm like, why is nobody? But maybe if I post about it, people are like, hey, maybe I should read that. Because a lot of times I don't think they like look at the synopsis. They just are like, I'm going to read it. I've done that before.
Right.
So, I mean, maybe if we all just talk about it enough, people are like, all right, I'll try it out now.
I've given away quite a few free copies.
Yeah, you guys are doing a great job of talking about it. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you. But yeah,
I feel like we need to be on TikTok, like actually posting instead of just consuming content.
I don't. The one thing I'll say about TikTok for the YouTube people is that the maximum limit on TikTok is 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You don't have to have lightning bullshit. Oh,
yeah.
Excuse me.
and most videos,
this is a sweary channel. Don't worry.
Yeah,
like
I was about to be like, "This is Lana's channel. You're fine."
I feel like on Book Talk
it's okay.
Oh, sorry. It's hard on Book Talk because the best videos are like 7 to 15 seconds. They get the most views. So like, how do you cram The Legend of Blackjack into like a 15-second?
I completely agree. And to me, it's like, well, don't, just talk about it for as long as it takes to talk about it. And it's not like it's going to get 1 million views, but maybe 3 people pick up the book because of it.
Well, people are really receptive on Bookstagram too. Like it did really well me just saying like, here's a kind of idea of what the book is about, and I loved it, and people were like, oh, this sounds interesting, I'm going to add it to my to be read or whatever. So, Bookstagram, it seemed to be more people were like reading what I wrote and being interested in it, I guess. But
well, and I'm an old man. I don't understand the socials. Right?
I think you're doing well. I thought I didn't.
TikTok scares the crap out of me.
I can't do Instagram.
I can barely post to Instagram.
Right.
Forget about stories. Forget about linking.
I love it.
Forget about animating it. I can take a picture and I can put it on Instagram. That's the extent of my skill.
And that's my thing
I don't
about
even have it.
and that's my thing about Book Talk is the people that are on BookTube, most of your reviews are less than 10 minutes. Just throw them on there.
Yeah.
Who cares whether anybody sees them or not? It's content. Somebody's going to be like, oh, this is kind of interesting.
Do you think
and it gives you an opportunity to build your audience in a new audience.
Do you think Amazon, because I have a friend who's an indie author and he sent me a copy of his book and he said that like Amazon reviews really helped him. He was like tracking it. Do you find that Amazon or Goodreads reviews help?
Would you like me to speak frankly?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, please.
Goodreads reviews are for us. They're for geeks who love books and want to go to a website to check out a bunch of books. Normal people don't do that. Normal people go on Amazon and go, I want book good, get book. Oh, right. So the reviews on Amazon are demonstrably more important than the reviews on Goodreads. And it doesn't matter if you're indie or whatever. Like the first goal is to try and get to 20 reviews on Amazon. The next goal is try and get 50. The next goal is try and get 100. That's the whole game.
And it moves. Does it move you up like if you're like you're number 457 in this genre or whatever?
Yes.
Based off that, okay.
Because more people believe that this isn't shit. Right?
And it so starts to recommend as well as like other people that liked this book that you just bought also read this.
Yeah.
It's funny though because there's so many books I've read that I loved, and I look at the reviews and I'm like, why are all these 1-star reviews on here? And so it's, I guess, even that's kind of like wishy-washy, but
no, 1 star is like the rite of passage. Like
I made it.
Oh yeah.
I don't even leave 1-star reviews because
I don't either.
If I'm leaving a 1-star review, I've quit the book.
Absolutely.
I can't even talk about it if it's below 2 stars. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, but like I do a thing on the Oasis. Anytime an author gets their first 1 star, I go on and have a drink with them to celebrate their achievement, right? Because it's like, you're a man now, Toby. You're a woman now, Jenny. And because you have to go through that because the trolls are there. If you want 100 reviews, you're going to get 2 1 stars and 2 2 stars. Doesn't matter how good your book is, right? You're just going to get some troll crap in there, and that's okay. Right? It's okay. The trick is
people review books that they DNF too, which I didn't know people did that. I'm like, why would you review it if you didn't finish it? But okay.
It took me a second to realize who Joseph Byrne is because I'm slow. Well, because his book is JCM. And so my brain was just like, hey, that looks familiar. Okay, who's Joseph and what's he talking about? Well, he's talking about his book, Andrew. You're a bit stupid.
Show the cover again.
I mean, if you insist. I love this cover.
So do I.
It's so much better in person too.
Yeah. And it grows. It's one of those covers that grows on you because when you get it, you're like, oh. And then like after you read it, you're just like, oh. And then after you're finished, you're just like, oh.
Can I recommend a book to you guys from like a horror reader to also like fantasy? Because I know you guys recommended one. This is The Black God's Drums.
I have that.
By P.J. Clark, and it's like fantasy, but I don't even know how to explain it. But it's a novella. It's very fast, so if you have time to read it, I highly recommend it. I think you guys would like it.
What's it called?
Title, please.
The Black God's Drums. Even you read it too. Andy.
Oh yeah, I'll read anything short.
It says it's
Sure.
like Haitian sky pirates and magic. So I think you guys will like it.
The cops are here.
Can you stop crying?
If only it were that easy.
Oh, she muted. That's so sweet. Oh, Marilyn. So the cover again is me. I draw everything really badly, then I give it to somebody good. And the cover was, it needed to be something that didn't put off any one particular age group. So it kind of worked across the board, and then the scalpel is there because, you know, that's out of anything. That's kind of what sums up who Jack is. But it was Andrew who used the word grimoire, and that's exactly what I wanted. It was a book that felt like it was in Dr. Strange's library, and there's a lock on the side of it that makes it feel like there's something dangerous inside that somebody felt like they needed to lock away. That's where the cover came from.
I'm still waiting for my $6,000 premium edition. Covered in
one that's leather and silver with a customized lock.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yep.
Dude, I just want a hardback with color pictures in it. That's all I want.
Hand stitched by the author.
Stitch.
I had
Might have some blood on there too. DNA.
Yeah, all the red around the key is actually just from where you stabbed your finger.
Yep.
It's funny because with the cover, when it comes to indie covers, and I feel like I'm getting a little off topic, but I have seen a number of authors like share their concept art, and it's always like a stick figure that they've sent off to an artist, and they're like, "Hey, can you do something with this?" And it's like, "Sure, little Timmy, I can definitely do something with that. We're gonna put that on the fridge, and then when you're not looking, we're gonna throw it out."
Mm-hmm. And really, the best thing that you can give an artist is a just how you want the space to be filled. I want a round thing in the middle, and I want edges, and I want a lock about here. You can draw that with like little boxes, or you can do like a PowerPoint of that and go like this. And that's what they do, is they go, "Cool, you filled the frame for me, and let me make it pretty." And that's what that was the thing that got them girls in high school and everything. They're good at it.
Special talent.
Yeah.
So going back to that hardcover, how feasible would that actually be? Because I know I've seen indie authors do them, and they come out gorgeous.
Yeah, I think.
Can we please make it a naked paper, naked hardcover?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't like dust jackets on books. Do you?
Mm.
No.
I don't.
Well, and
I
even
don't
if
like
there is a
hardcover at all.
dust jacket, even if there is a dust jacket, like have the exact same thing underneath.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think to me, it's just been a matter of time and who the hell would want that. And then making sure that I get color illustrations, because Amazon couldn't do it. Right. That's originally what I wanted to do. And Amazon said, unless you want your book on white paper, you can't have color illustrations. I'm like, I do not want my book on white paper.
Yeah.
This isn't something to hand out at a salesperson's luncheon. What's one lesson you learned from releasing this book that you wish you would have known prior to starting? I believe it in my heart. I wish I would have realized how right I am that you can't do it by yourself. I thought that if I spent enough on advertising, that like if I really allowed myself to spend an uncomfortable amount of money on advertising, that would make up the gap. And it's not true at all. There's only so much that you can do with your dollars, with your time, your social media, right? There's only so loud you can bang the drum. And it's that from Jump Street, all that matters is other people, right? It's not me. It's not the author. It's the other people who say yes. That's what I wish I would have known. I don't know what I would have done about it because I tried to, make as many relationships as I could, but I don't know what I'm doing.
Honestly, you just needed to send more pictures with your shirt open.
Let's see. I think I'm going to go for the wistful ascending jumpsuit look. And
that might work. As long as it's skin tight, though.
Yep.
No, it's funny that you mentioned the advertising because Christopher D. Brand, Blade for Hire author, he runs these experiments on Twitter where he'll do like Facebook advertising and he'll post his stats of like, hey, this is what it cost me per click. This is how many clicks I'm getting. And it's funny because the amount of clicks he's getting and the amount of money he's spending, like there's a reason he's calling it an experiment because it's not. It's kind of a scam.
It's not necessarily a scam. It's just it's like all advertising. You can't expect it to be the only thing that's working because it's a loss leader, right? You are losing money on the advertising so that you can get enough velocity to escape, right? And you depend on other people for that. But if you don't have a big audience, then you just kind of keep putting enough people in the funnel so that you get to those 100 reviews and you get to the, become the 1,000 review toaster. How much money is it going to take for you to become the 1,000 review toaster? Because that's what people are going to buy.
Yeah.
Honestly, I know a lot of books that like hit 1,000 review ratings, but not the reviews.
I don't think I've seen 1,000. Maybe if I really look, but most of the books I read, no.
Sorry, I forgot who I'm talking to. Ratings. You guys think of them as being different. Normal people don't. Well, and that's the thing is people don't want to write reviews. The reviews from professionals matter. The reviews from people who do reviews matter. But from Joe Schmo in Idaho, stick 4 stars on it and go. Well, George, your experience, you know what you're doing. But most people who read books, they don't know what to do with a book review, so they don't do anything. And just sticking 4 stars on it and going, oh, it was that good at the end is hugely valuable.
I've actually noticed like recently that I need to change the way that I do my Goodreads reviews to my Amazon ones because Amazon is for the average person and I really want people to buy what I've read and what I'm reviewing.
The stuff that you like.
Yeah, the stuff that I like. I'm like, I need to change because on Goodreads, I can do like a big whole, this is what I liked, this is why I liked it, this was like the world building was this, the characters were this, blah, 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 blah. But on Amazon, like when you're just like a Joe Blow, because I actually asked my mum, I was like, would you read this book? And she'd read a couple of the reviews. She looked at the ones that were like 3 sentences long and that's it. Yeah. So she's like, yeah, that's a good review. I'll get that. And it said like, it was just like, this was fun, fast, action-packed, and the romance was great. And she was like, oh, and there were a couple of reviews like that. And she's like, I'd get that one. And I was just like, so you read like three sentences and decided on that? She's like, yep. And I'm like, I am wasting my time.
Yeah. Usually I just copy and paste my Goodreads review, removed copy provided by the author, and shove it straight into Amazon.
That's what I do too.
Yeah.
You guys use Storygraph?
Yep.
I like Storygraph that it lets you like see if it's like character driven or plot driven, or if it has like diverse cast of characters and stuff. But I stopped doing star ratings. I do still do them, but like on Instagram and stuff and Book Talk, because it's so hard to pick like a star. I just say like I loved it or I liked it.
Yeah.
It's just so hard.
I've stopped doing star ratings too.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't really even like star ratings anymore because it's so like it could just be so many things. But
yeah, one person's 3 is another person's 5.
Yeah. Well, because I see people left and right like it was 3 stars, and I'm like, for me, that's like not a great rating. That's like tolerable.
Right.
So everything I rate, I love, I just write 5, like just 5,
Mhm.
5, 5, 5, 5. I don't hardly ever do 3. So I just stopped doing it like in videos and posts. So I kind of wish they'd change it on Goodreads and Amazon, but they probably won't because that's the easy way.
The algorithm, right?
Yeah.
So out of respect for everybody, and thank you, we're at, an hour and 40 past. How about last call for alcohol? Are there any other like things you want to know before we go? Because I'm thank you for your input, because it really helps me on the story figure out what worked and what didn't. But because it's like with the jokes and the Andy Ibis type stuff where you think, well, I'm just doing this for me here, and you find out it works for other people. That's really helpful for me as a storyteller to like have a little bit of trust for next time that okay, that works. You can try it again.
I think I'm more curious to know if I know other people have been asking for more stories, but is there something that you would personally like to write more of, whether it's Blackjack or not? This isn't a trap. I'm genuinely curious.
So
It's a trap.
I think I'm good at. I think I know how to tell a Blackjack story. The problem with doing a second is that if you do a second, it's not just a second book. You have to, if you go, you have to go. So that's really the thing that's kind of standing in my way is do I want to climb that mountain? That's a lot, because you can't just do one. You got to finish, and so right now it's done, so I don't ever have to mess with it again, and the audience can be happy, and I can go away. So if it wasn't Blackjack, I would love to do I like coming of age stories. I like power being won by people who feel like you, who feel like me, where I can, it's easy for me to put myself in their shoes. So I think if I did something else that wasn't Blackjack or wasn't in Keymark, I think I would do another coming of age. Like if I could get to The Giver or get to The Alchemist, that would be, the pinnacle of an accomplishment as far as I'm concerned.
Awesome.
So it'll be a coming of age ninja story.
Coming of age ninja stories. What did we call it? Bo's staff.
Bo's staff. I was like, I think you owe Bo that story at least.
Oh yeah, absolutely. you and Bo and okay. So I need to say this: the very first time we did a buddy read, it was like nobody came, right? And it was just Jord and Bo and Donna who
We had a great time.
Stuck with me and said, okay, I'll read this with you guys. And it was so much like I never knew the end of the steeplechase hit that hard, right? Until they read it, I didn't know that worked pretty darn well. And so getting to see their reactions as they went was a magic for me. And so, the 3 people in the world reading it, and it was just like, okay, I thank you for doing this. I will write you whatever story you want. And Bo was like, well, this story has everything except for ninjas. So give us a ninja story. I was like, okay.
And Chris,
you can always do time jumps like Narnia did.
Yeah,
it's true.
Turn Keymark into a Narnia clone.
Oh yeah, piece of cake. You could do other characters. I mean, that's the nice thing about time travel is that, quite frankly, you can make up whatever you want it to be and justify it later. So yeah, it's
turn Keymark into a sci-fi.
We'll do a sci-fi.
Yeah,
we'll get some spaceships. We'll get some space pirates. We'll have a spaceship called the Rooker Flynn, named after. There we go.
Going to Chicago.
Chicago. I love the little stuff like that's the other thing too. Sorry. The other thing that I love is being able to be in a fantasy setting and reference Chicago, right? I love that because it grounds the whole thing past just, out of the portal, out of the real world, into the portal, into the fantasy world. Doing callbacks to the real world and having Jack, adapt things from the real world during the course of the story. I love being able to do those references because I can say it came at him like a freight train and nobody's going to yell at me because I put a freight train in a fantasy set.
Very true.
Portal fantasies are very good for that, though.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You can get away with a lot.
Well,
A lot more for you.
Or you could be Thomas Covenant and do a little too much. Anyway.
I mean, when I was a kid, it was Terry Brooks, J.R.R. Tolkien, Stephen R. Donaldson, missing one, and Thomas Covenant, the Unbeliever, and you were forced to read that one and then kill yourself after.
Well, it looks like it didn't take.
Yeah.
Awesome. Alrighty, guys. Does anyone have anything left to say?
Last call for alcohol.
Any last questions or anything?
Oh, it's way too late for drinking.
It's still early for me.
All right. Well,
It's 11 o'clock.
Probably too early for me.
Right. Well, Kayla was supposed to go to bed like an hour ago. So
I'm an old lady. Yeah.
I was supposed to be in bed 30 minutes ago. So,
but again, I cannot tell you all how much I appreciate you. It's amazing to have relationships with you, but also hearing your feedback is great. But also having conversations like this is just stuff I never thought would happen. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you for
You're
your
most welcome.
yes, thank you. For
Thank you.
Blackjack. I can't wait for book 2.
All right. Well, just had to drop that in there.
Thank you for ruining
right.
everything, Andrew. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.